Hello, this video is to show you how to assemble the new dome cover along with the front plexiglass door to anything in the Craftbot line. There's a standard size that you can put on the Craftbot Original, the Craftbot Plus, and the Craftbot 2, and we also offer a slightly larger size for the Craftbot XL. Now the purpose of the enclosure is to protect the user from potentially hazardous fumes that may come about during the printing process when the filament melts. And along with the sides that come with the Craftbot, the front door in the dome makes the Craftbot completely closed. It is safe to use in a home, a lab, a work, and is even used in numerous classroom situations worldwide. The front door is made of the same material as the sides, plexiglass. However, the dome cover is made of PET, which is classified as impact resistant. The whole enclosure is designed for a one-time only assembly, and the manual can be downloaded and printed from our website, craftunique.com. All right, let's take this thing out of the box. Open it up. I'm going to pull this insert out. Now you're going to see 4 protective pads in here. You're just going to remove all those. One's in at an angle. And then to get it out of the box, you're going to grab it, if you look in here, you're going to grab it by one of these corners and you're just going to lift up. Should come out very nicely. Just support the other side. We'll get the box out of the way. We'll put it on the table. And to remove it, you just bend this back and with just one side, and you're going to lift it right on out of there. And it should slide right out there, and then you just set it on the table. You're going to see the cord in there. Make sure not to hurt that at all, because that's pretty important. And then you're going to have the filament feeder right there. Before we assemble the dome itself, it's important that we lower the build plate down so that later in the process we'll be able to reach into the cavity of the machine. To do that, we home in on the Z, and then we're just going to lower it down to a point, not till it's smashing against the bottom, but till it's pretty close to touching the bottom. Okay, for the dome assembly, the first thing you want to do is turn your Craftbot around. I'm going to at least turn my Craftbot around. And you're going to turn the power off. And just stating the obvious, you're going to plug it from the wall. At this point, you're going to have to remove some of the bolts from the top, remove the parts, and remove the back. And something to keep in mind is when you're removing the bolts from the top, you don't necessarily have to take the top off, you just need to remove the bolts. When you're removing the bolts in the back, you have to be aware of the fan assembly. Before you remove the back itself, you're going to need to reach in and disconnect the fan assembly from the main board. And it's important too that that wire that connects up is going to be a Y connector for the dome, which will plug into the PCB. I'll show you that later. Let's get to it. We take the middle-sized Allen wrench found in the set that came with your Craftbot. If you lost it, you just have to find another Allen wrench. And let's begin taking off all the bolts from the top of the machine. Okay, now that we're at the back, I'm just going to give you a little cheat here. There are 5 screws, 5 bolts rather, that fasten the back on, and this is the order we're going to go at. 1, 2, 3, the 2 top in the corner, and the very last one's going to be the top center. So let's do it. Okay, we're going to slow down here a second before we take this off. And be aware that the fan is going to be connected to the PCB. We're going to take this off slowly and hold it in place a little bit. And take that out. We'll gently set that down. And I'm going to reach around back here. Okay, we're going to slowly remove the back panel, and you're going to see the fan the cable and it's going to run into the PCB, and it actually says case fan. It's very small, but it's the furthest fan connection to the right. And I'll bring this around a little bit. There's a tab on top of it. You don't want to press that down, but you want to grab just the connector itself, not the wires, the plastic on the end, and you're going to pull. It should come right out of there, and that's how you remove that. Put that to the side. Now we're going to put the dome cover on top of the Craftbot, and you want to have your fan towards the rear. And when you set it on top, it's actually going to overhang a little bit. What I want to focus the most on is actually the wire coming out of the back. And one thing you have to remember is if you're looking at the back, the wire is going to sit a little bit to the left of the center screw that holds on the back plate. So let's put this on, and we're going to get it kind of lined up here, overhanging. We got it on pretty good there. I'm going to put it just about there, just left of center, and that's the most important thing. And now we're going to come down and I'm going to show you how to connect it to the PCB. Okay, if you notice the end of the wire, there's this strange connector here that has another end coming out. This is going to actually connect in the place of the case fan where the rear fan actually connected in before. We're just going to go connect that up right now. Slide it right in there. And this other end that comes out, the rear fan is actually going to connect into this, and they're both going to go through that same port. Now we should have a little more free wire from the fan than before. We have this much more to play with, so we're going to connect this up. And then the number one thing you want to make sure not to do is to get the wire stuck in the fan. So when you put it on the back, just be aware of that. Get everything in there nice, and at this point what we're going to do is we're just going to put the 3 top bolts in, starting with the center very loosely. We're going to keep them in there so they just hold it on. Okay, after we have the 3 top bolts on loosely, we're going to look at this wire up on top that you can see running from the fan, and the most important thing is that it doesn't block the spool holder. Now, it's going to come up, and as long as it sits a little bit to the right of it, and you're all lined up, and it's not blocking it, this is perfect. This is perfect. Not too much pinching, not blocking things. At that point, we can actually come back down, and we can put the 2 other bolts in the bottom loosely, making sure that you're not pinching any wires and that the wire is not in the fan. And then we can go around and tighten all 5 of them, starting with the center, the 2 sides, and then the 2 on the bottom. So let's go about doing that right now. Okay, now we're going to fasten the cover on, and to do that, we're going to put the bolts in. You might want to start with the corners. Don't tighten any of them up. We'll do that last. We're just going to get them screwed like halfway in there. And then we're going to take the other parts, and we're going to come around the back of the machine, and they're going to fit up through the holes. You might need to lift the dome up a little bit to get them in there if you don't want to force them. And then we're going to come up through the cavity of the machine and actually screw the bolts in with your Allen wrench. So let's get that done right now. The dome will fit right into the existing holes, and you'll go through the lid and the dome with 1 single bolt. The filament feeder that came with the dome, if you noticed, is a little bit shorter than your original, just a tad bit, so that it fits comfortably in the dome. Now we're going to put that in by putting it up through the body cavity, and we're going to place it in the back right there. And then the extruder, if you come out this way, you just plug it in there, and that should be good to go. If you notice, the spool holder that came with the dome is a little bit longer so that the spool can freely spin underneath the dome itself. We're just going to put this on here, and we're going to make sure that the filament is feeding from the bottom, and it's going to come up through the tube, and you'll be able to feed it all the way up. And there you go. You're ready to print. Well, now we've assembled the dome onto the Craftbot. I hope it wasn't too difficult. I think with a little bit of patience, any Ethan, Joe, Rachel, or even Riley could get this thing on here. Let's go to the door assembly now. Here's the box for the front door, and pretty self-explanatory to take it out. You know, you have your items here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop the door out of the box, and you're gonna notice there is a protective coating on that. You're going to need to take that off and take your extra parts out of the bag, and now let's put this thing on. Okay, we're going to figure out which direction we want our door to face, and I'm going to go with from left to right. The hinge is on the left and the handle on the right, and there's a significance behind this because the plate that sits on the plexiglass itself, if you will notice, it has a Craft Unique insignia on it. And that is going to face towards the outside. If you look on the back, there's this little piece of tape, and underneath that is an adhesive surface that helps you to apply it to the plexiglass. Now, either side is fine, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to match the hole up here with the hole in this, facing towards the outside. Don't put it on backwards either. The Craft Unique symbol must be facing out. Okay, we got that on pretty tight. It's gonna stick right away, and that looks pretty lined up. We're gonna take this section of the handle, and we're gonna place it in here. It won't go any other way, so it's fail-safe. Now we're gonna take the lock portion of the handle, and if you notice, there's a 90-degree wedge cut in that. We want that to face from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And it should insert in there. You might have to fiddle with it a little bit to get it in, but I'm lucky here. It went right in. And if we turn it over, I'm going to point this out. If the lock is facing up, it's in lock position. So if it's facing 12 to 3 and the lock slit is facing up, that's where you want it. If not, you're going to need to put the key in and turn it to that. Let's turn it back over. Now we have the washer. This black washer is going to go in, and it can only fit one way or the other, back and forth, so it's not completely circle. And if we look at our washer, we have a flat side and we have a round side. We want to go flat side down, and then we want to tighten it up on there pretty tight. We want to get that on there so it doesn't come off, you know, half a year down the road. Very good. Now, because it's in the lock position right now, this is going to be facing in. We want this facing down and in. We're going to place that on there. Maybe push up a little bit there. Put the bolt on. We'll tighten it by hand. And we'll help it along at the very end with our Phillips head screwdriver. Very good. And at this point, if we turn it back around and we put the key in, sorry, my bad, upside down, and we can unlock it. You can see this come up and lock. This is perfect. Take it back out. Now we can focus on assembling the door with the hinges. Okay, the hinge itself is actually two parts that stick together. And this is the way it looks when it's together. You'll notice that on either side there's a thinner gap here and a thicker gap. The thicker gap will go to the top side and the thinner to the bottom. The thicker gap is what we attach to the plexiglass first. And you're going to see some actual little cutouts that it will attach. Before we attach that, there are many, many set screws. And we're going to start placing them in here, but not tightening them up because they'll come through the gap. So first we're going to take our smallest Allen wrench, which came with the Craftbot, and we're going to place each set screw in there. I'll just give you an example of 2. I'll just get them going in there. There's one. Let's get a second. Get 2 in there. Not all the way, but just get them started. And once you begin to get that in there and you've gotten all 4 in there, you're going to take it, imagine the door's in place, and the larger gap going on here to the top, you're going to place. You maybe need a little bit of leverage here, so put it down, and that will slide right on there. It might be a little difficult in a tight fit, but that's good. Once you get it on there, you're going to tighten the set screws up. Okay, and I'm going to assemble the other one too, and we'll go from there and show you how to put it on the actual body of the Craftbot. Take your assembled door with the assembled hinges, make sure they don't fall out, just be gentle here. And what you're going to do is you're going to come in and just a hair, maybe a millimeter or so above the bottom plate, you're going to place the door in, both hinges there, but you're going to raise it so there's just a little gap on the bottom. And if it was me, I wouldn't worry about scratching this too much. Putting tape in there in between to protect your Craftbot could make this slip out, so I'd just do it without. The worst thing you do is put a little scratch in there, but I think it'll be okay. About a millimeter gap here, and once you get about a millimeter gap, you're going to open up here, make sure it's tight, and you're going to tighten up one of those set screws with an Allen wrench in the top, just one of them. Okay, and then we'll check the door, make sure it's good. That looks perfect. Now at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to press this hinge up from the bottom, make sure it's flush against, always flush against, keep that in mind. And we're going to tighten one of these up. Just going to find it. There we go. While we're pressing up, so it's flush against there and flush up. That's tight. Let's check it one more time. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's not too bad. It fits in there. It's not perfect, but I think it's good enough for now. It's still got a gap in the top and the bottom. There's a little bigger gap here, but nothing that bad. If you want to reposition it down, go ahead and do that. Now you can tighten all 4 up. Just going to come in here and tighten up. There you go. And now the door is assembled. You can even check it with the key. On this end. There you go. It locks. Take the key out, put the key back in, unlock. Just in case you don't want any kids or animals getting in there, while you're printing. There, your cat's not going to get in there and get hurt. Your kids aren't going to open it up. You're completely assembled. Thanks for watching.